Hello, my name is Francis Kamuyu, Senior IT Manager at Multichoice Kenya, and I'm going to be taking you through this presentation on IoT. Where have we come from and where are we going? It's going to be a pretty fast presentation because I only have 10 minutes. And so we start. IoT, for those who may not know where it's used, this is a good slide to give you an idea. From personal devices attached to your body to the home, we're talking about home controllers, security systems, camera systems. We're talking about retail environments. You've heard of Amazon supermarket where you walk in and you walk out, no tellers. Offices, knowledge workers, etc. Energy management, Google is doing a lot of that. Factories, that's a big one. We're going to look at that later. The opportunities there, and also hospitals and farms. We have work sites, vehicles. We all know about vehicles, self-driving vehicles, etc. And then smart cities, etc. So that should give you a good idea of what we are talking about. Now, in the recent past, if you look at 2019, what has happened in this space? Quite a lot. Just looking at the slide, even without going into the details, you notice some big names. You notice Huawei, Amazon, Microsoft, Microsoft again, Amazon, Siemens. That should tell you IoT is generating a lot of interests, even before you go into the details. Now, once you go into the details, and I would really encourage that you go through, you look for the background research on all this. There's a lot going on in this space. So in 2019, you had Amazon announcing plans to launch 3,200 satellites for connectivity. Not specifically for IoT, but these will definitely be a big deal for IoT. Of course, we all heard about Huawei equipment getting blacklisted in the United States. They still made an 18% improvement in revenue, mostly support from China. And then around May, we have Microsoft publishing the IoT signals report, which I would recommend that everyone interested in IoT, this is the report you need to read. They found out a lot of things about IoT. They found that a third of all IoT projects, initiatives, die at proof of concept level because of two main things. We are going to look at that. And they found many other things. They found 97% of companies are worried about security in IoT, 47% are worried about lack of talent. We look at that a little bit more. VMware makes major acquisition and lays out Kubernetes strategy. Kubernetes, the big names, Google is not here, but yeah, it features. Samsara receives 300 million in Series F funding. That was the greatest. Microsoft announced general availability of Azure Sphere chip. This is a chip specifically for IoT. And then the 100th million ride on IoT connected scooters for Lime. Siemens makes environmental feature prominently. And then Ring from Amazon, which had a few other problems. So this is just 2019. There's a lot that's been going on, but I put this slide here so that we can see this is a very active area, and a lot is happening in this area. But what about before 2019? IoT started around 1999, around 2000, thereabout. Internet of Things. It wasn't called IoT then. IoT as a terminology came in much later. Then it was just radio frequency ID, RFID. It needed to wait for some advancements in technology. For example, IP version 6 IoT, RFID is still used, but IP version 6 it's one of the enablers of IoT. We have enough IP addresses in IP version 6 for every atom on the surface of the Earth and 100 times more. So yes. Wi-Fi, Ethernet, 2G, now we're talking about Thread, we're talking about LTE, Bluetooth, Edge, 4G, 5G, data science, Kubernetes. We had miniature PCs. Right now, we're talking about specialized, minimalized modules. Before, there were legacy systems. Now, it's over-the-counter components. No one thought about ethics then. Right now, regulatory agencies are starting to be very concerned about the security issues in IoT. UK is leading in that area. There is a standard called AllJoin, still not fully accepted across board, but at least standards are coming up. Before they were very expensive, now it's very low cost. Before you needed a lot of engineering skills. Now it's very specialized technician skills. Before it was more of a hobby. Now we are talking about automotive, logistics, media, wearables, global information systems, logistics, banking, utilities like smart meters, everything. Smartphones, smart cities. Yes, before, it was just about devices as a business model, sale of devices as a business model. Now, companies are selling preventative maintenance based on IoT. And a lot of customers are very interested in that. Before, obviously, it was just text. Now you're talking about video, audio, and text. Video and audio have brought in a lot of security issues. Before, it was just a few devices here and there. Now, half of the connected devices are IoT devices. They talk to each other. Current challenges, based on all that history, lack of industry standards, so devices don't talk to each other. One of the biggest issues with IoT is that most IoT devices cannot be patched. Once it is sold and installed on equipment, that's it. Yet, vulnerabilities are discovered every day. So that's a big, big challenge. Number 3, poor security governance and privacy design. A lot of these devices don't have encryption in transit or at rest. Default passwords are not changed. And this has compromised a lot, including Amazon Ring and a lot of other IoT solutions, which was pretty embarrassing. Poor backend design. There are people who are still not going to cloud yet. Cloud is mature and it has inexpensive offerings. Not leveraging machine learning, AI, and big data. So we have unscalable solutions. Not running a proof of concept. This is very, very important because it's been found, before it was about 60%, proof of concepts didn't lead on to full solutions. Now it's about a third of solutions don't go past proof of concept. And why? Because value is not realized and the solution is just too expensive. We need to move from the hype of IoT to application, and I think that's a big problem. And then not designing for data purging. Not all the data will be used. How are you going to make sure that it's deleted so that it doesn't take up bandwidth, it doesn't take up storage? So those are some of the challenges. Difficulty in predicting costs. Sometimes the best way to predict the cost of IoT is to run it for a month. Then unfortunately, some cloud offerings, they will give you a month free. So what happens beyond that? Then we have bandwidth costs, of course, and backend management costs, especially skills shortage. So the big worries in summary is security, 97% are worried about security, lack of skills, and complexity. What to expect in future? Smart cities. We have several, London, San Francisco, the rest have started. Edge computing. This is pre-processing big data on location using edge servers before transmitting. That's going to save on storage. It's going to save on bandwidth costs. It's going to save on security if you have a smaller footprint. IoT, that is industrial, that is IoT for the fourth industrial revolution. This is a combination of everything. It's the whole ecosystem, from sensors, networks, big data, AI, analytics, everything. And then the other thing we expect is use of AI for optimization. We've talked about this. Google is using machine learning to reduce power consumption in data centers. The big theme for IoT is IoT and the environment. Siemens supported Grand Force, a chocolate factory, to reduce power consumption by 20% and plans for a 50 billion liters of water saving using IoT and the AI. 5G, we all know about 5G. When it comes to IoT, it's going to be a marriage, a very, very good marriage. And then annual growth exceeding 24% up to 2026. And notice all the major players involved: Google, Cisco, Microsoft, Dell, and Facebook. And this is a good summary of where we expect the spending to be. And my advice is follow the money, not the hype. Notice factories, $1.2 trillion to $3.3 trillion. Yet we don't hear much about that. We hear a lot about, wearables and human, and that's also quite big, but it's not as big as factories. Retail environments, quite big, but the range is, depending on who is giving you the figures, that varies widely. Work sites, quite a bit, outside, and then cities and vehicles, and the home. The value of IoT impact, including consumer surplus, would be equivalent to about 11% of the world economy in 2025, according to the McKinsey report. And that's it from me. I didn't have a lot of time for this, so I hope in that time that we have looked at the history of where we've come from with IoT and where we are going and the challenges and how those challenges are being addressed. I hope you've taken away something. So the big things to remember: 5G, edge computing, AI. Those are the big determinants of success in IoT. Thank you very much.